everybody give Mark a super warm welcome.
Thanks, Royd. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me come and speak to you this Wednesday evening. So my name's Mark, and I'm going to talk to you about teams as complex systems. So just a little bit on what I'm going to cover off with you today. So a bit of an intro to me. As Royd says, I'm going to talk a bit about myself. Then I'm going to talk about teams as systems, okay? And then we're going to talk about the Cynefin framework. Is anyone here familiar with the Cynefin framework already? Yes, quite a few, about 50%. All right, that's good. It's Dave Snowden's birthday today, so kind of happy birthday, Dave. We're talking about your framework. I'm then going to talk about constraints, and I'm going to talk about experiments. Now, that might not make loads of sense right now, but by the time I get to that stage in the talk, it should make sense, and hopefully it'll be quite exciting and interesting. I work at scale, so to try and tie it back into some of what Matthew was talking about enterprise, I'll talk about what's worked for me at scale. Okay, so what works for me at scale and some stuff you can take, and then we'll close, and then we'll go to the pub. Intro to Mark D. I've got to be a Mark D because I work with lots of other Marks, and there's often like even multiple Mark Ds as well, which is quite frustrating. But I'm an enterprise agile coach. Okay, so that's me. So I work across about 40, well over 40 teams at the moment, normally at scale. Okay, lots of different experience. That's quite small for you at the back. Apologies for that. So I've done some stuff in travel, aviation mostly, but more recently kind of working at scale, probably the last 7 years or so. I spent a bit of time in the third sector, okay, the charity sector, about 10 years ago, and that was really interesting for me. Anyone who worked in charity or worked in charity before? Got one hand, yeah? Yeah, a couple of people done a little bit of charity. The thing I found about working in the charity sector was I had a team of about 20, 25 people, I had a very small budget, and I couldn't get things moving. It was really, really hard, okay? You've got limited resources, limited projects. You've got to really prioritize what's going to give the most benefit to the charity, to the people you're working with and supporting. And I thought, well, I used to work enterprise. I'll go back to enterprise, and everything will be great, right? Because I've got loads of money, loads of people, loads of resources. Went back to enterprise, and teams still struggled, right? The problems are the same. And I was a little bit disappointed going from charity, small team, to large team, large scale, and having the same problems. So this got me thinking, okay? So what's happening? Why am I still struggling? So this got me thinking about teams as complex systems, right? So this got me a bit into complexity thinking, and I've never really looked at a team or an organization in the same way, okay? And I know that might all sound a little bit like we're taking the human element out and I'm just looking at your team as a system, but I really think as a leader, you know, in our teams, it's about creating the conditions for the system to succeed, right? So it's a really important thing. So I've never looked at a team the same way since. I put here complexity practitioner, so hopefully I've explained that. I've also got my PSM3, which is a Scrum.org thing. It just means I know a lot about Scrum, and I'd recommend it if you also know a lot about Scrum, but you don't need it. And obviously we've got Dave here next month, and you can chat with him about Scrum to your heart's content. But I know a lot about Scrum, and I think it's a good framework. I know you might be thinking Scrum isn't Agile, Agile isn't Scrum, okay, but kind of come with me on the journey on that one, please. The last thing I put there is I put a recovering optimist, which is not to say that I'm a pessimist, okay? It's just that I don't think things are as simple in the world as I once thought they were. I mean, look at what's happening in the world right now, okay? One thing that you would think is quite isolated is causing a lot of havoc across the whole of the globe. So things are really connected and really tangled up. And I think I used to think it was quite black and white, but now it's kind of shades of grey and complex. Anyway, that's why I'm here to talk to you about complexity. Has this ever happened to anyone here? So have you ever imposed order and experienced unintended consequences? Just kind of raise your hand if you've ever said to someone, one hand up, just like, just do best practice. Just do good practice, and then something's gone wrong, and it's kind of backfired and blown up in your face. Yeah? Couple of hands, yeah. So this is dealing with complexity. If you can see on the slide, we've got these two people. This is a great idea. The dominoes fall. We've got big problems at the end, right? So the interesting thing about this is you probably experience complexity like this in sometime in your life. If you've ever been in a relationship or a friendship that's gone wrong, or you know someone who it's not worked out, it's two people going into a relationship at the start. No one's thinking, oh, this is great, it's going to end terribly. Everyone's going, this is exciting. I'm excited by this. But because people are complex and relationships are complex, things happen, things emerge, and you don't always know, the outcome. It's only in retrospect that you can understand it. So that's complexity. Another question for you. Are you part of a team? I'm part of a team, part of a team. Yeah, most people pretty much in the room, part of a team. So just thinking about your team then, let's say that I'm your manager. Sorry, apologies for that. But let's just say that I look at your team and I think your team's not doing very well. Okay, so I'm not happy with what your team's doing. So I add someone to your team. I just give you an extra person. When you're a product team, I'll give you an extra product owner, okay, product person, product manager. Scrum team, here's an extra developer, they'll sort you out. Have I made your team better? Anyone? Have I made things worse? Probably, yeah, right? This is interesting, isn't it? Because has anyone ever been on a project where someone has just been added to make things go faster? Yeah, a couple of hands, right? So this is a common solution that people bring into your teams, and they go, well, I'll just add someone, it will go faster. Or maybe I'll just take someone out. And they're kind of breaking with kind of bring in some more complexity. If I have a unicorn who's been at your organization, they understand your kind of development process and everything, maybe they're going to very quickly add a lot of value to your team, right? They're going to speed you up, it's going to be great. But what's more likely is you're going to have to onboard them, it's going to be slow, they might want to have their own ways of working, it might be kind of more detrimental to your team. So because I've changed your whole team, because your team's complex, right? Everyone's individual, you're all unique, everyone in your team is unique, your relationships are all unique, I've just kind of added some chaos. So how do we measure team performance then? So let's have a think about this. So how do we measure team performance? This is a Formula One car. It's Max Verstappen's car. Does anyone here like Formula One? Okay.
A little bit less at the moment. But
Less, yeah. I think that's a fair comment. It's an interesting place. So this is Max. I like Max. I think he's a great driver. Please don't hate me, Lewis fans. I do think he's great. But this is a team that's optimized for speed. Okay, team's optimized for speed. If you don't watch Formula One, Max is in the Red Bull team, and last year they had the fastest pit stop. Okay, in 2025, which means all the tyres were changed in under 2 seconds. Okay, so that's pretty quick. But if you just look at these tyres, at these wheels here, you can see each one's got 3 people around it. Okay, so one person is unscrewing the tyre, the other person's taking it off, the other one's putting it back on, and the guy's drilling it back. So they do that, all 4 of them, really, really quickly. If we're optimizing for cost, okay, we wouldn't do that. When you change your tyres at home, you wouldn't be doing that, right? If you're optimizing for cost, in this country, you can buy used tyres. I don't know anyone who buys used tyres, but you can buy used tyres. What's interesting, and they're kind of just off the picture here, you've got two people at the back, and both with a jack to jack up the car, right? So the idea is car pulls in, jack up the car, tyres off, tyres on, jack's gone, car goes. So why have you got 2 people? Yeah? Yeah, in case one falls over. Yeah, in case something bad happens to one of them. They've realised if one of those people cannot get the jack under and jack up that car, it's better to have someone else there to just crack on, right? So that's interesting and expensive. And again, you probably wouldn't do that when you're changing your tyres at home. So that's optimised for speed. So when you think about your Scrum team, okay, anyone here running Scrum? Couple, okay. You're probably measuring some of these things. If you're not familiar, I'm just going to run through them. If you're running Kanban as well, you are probably tracking some of these metrics. Okay, so you're thinking about your cycle time. So cycle time is when you pick up a job, how long does it take you to complete that job? So thinking about Red Bull Formula One example, okay, that's 2 seconds. That's our cycle time. It's a really nice cycle time, okay? You might be thinking about lead time as well, okay? So lead time is just the wait time. So if you're doing 10 jobs and I add an 11th job, that job might only take you a day to do, but it might be sat there for 5 days. So 6 days is your lead time. That's how long it's taken you to process all of those things. Velocity and throughput. So velocity is the amount of effort you're getting through in a given period of time. So it might be story points or t-shirt sizes, whatever you're doing, just the volume of work you're getting through. And throughput is just the number of tickets, okay? So if you're getting through 10 tickets a week, okay, on average, then I would expect that team to get through 10 tickets a week. It's fairly straightforward. There's capacity as well. Is anyone measuring capacity utilization in your team? Is that something you look at? A couple of nods? Yeah. A few people kind of making faces. Yeah, okay. Capacity is an interesting one, right? So we do capacity. So when I was a grad many years ago, I was charged out to clients, and we'd try and utilize 90% of my capacity, right, on work that clients were happy to pay for. So capacity is really interesting. So it is useful for those things, but it's just a measure of how busy your team is. So it's basically saying our team have 95% capacity. We're utilizing all of our people to as efficiently as they can be. But the downside to having your people busy 95% of the time is when people are handing work between people, everyone's busy, and it brings the whole system to a halt, really. It slows down. It's a real flow inhibitor, is kind of having capacity too high, but it can be really useful for a team to measure kind of how much work they've got to do. And then WIP age. So WIP is a work in progress. So it means when I start something, how long have I been working on that thing before it gets moved to done, right? It's kind of like your cycle time, but you're measuring it live, right? So you're going, my cycle time, I want to have a cycle time of 5 days. That's been sat there for 5 days. I don't want it to get to 6. So how do I get that thing done today, okay? So those are useful metrics, right? If you're a manager, or if you're working across multiple teams, and if you're looking at all the teams, you're kind of going at these things going, okay, so how are my team performing? And then what do I want to do when these numbers look bad? Okay, so let's say, I'm not happy with your cycle time or your lead time or anything like that. What do I do? And here are some common leadership solutions. Okay, so this is what people do, and we do this, and it's an easy trap that people fall into, and management, and I can count myself in this as well, do this kind of thing, and we fall into the same trap again and again. We have to step back and have a think. So if I give you more developers, does that mean faster throughput? We've already talked about that example. What I might also say, has anyone ever heard someone say this? Just spend more time planning. Yeah, just take a day, take 2 days, just more planning, because that's going to make me, as your manager, feel better, right? I'm going to feel like, yes, less uncertainty. We know what's going on there. And then this idea of more utilization, meaning better value. So we talked about capacity. So if I go, well, actually just up your capacity to 90, 95, try and get it to 100, I'm going to feel like I'm getting more value, okay? Even if I've just ruined the flow of your team, that might make me feel good. And then define solutions. So I put the architects, anyone here familiar with Comic Agile? And yeah, in their ivory tower, and you can maybe at the back, you can't see all the teams down here. So I think architecture architecture is really useful for scale, by the way. I'm not saying bad things about architecture. I think when you've got 40 teams and they're all pulling in different technical directions, that is an absolute pain to kind of get on top of. So having an architecture function, and I work with an amazing architecture function at my current place, to just kind of go, hey, here are the guardrails. You can play in here, this is your field to play on. Do whatever you want, but kind of keep it on this field, right? That means that's really helpful. But what the trap is, you end up in this world of defined solutions. So we go, well, that project didn't go to plan. Well, why didn't it go to plan? Okay, well, because we didn't define the solution up front. Okay, well, let me define a solution for you, and then maybe we'll land on time, right? So we build HLDs, LLDs, feature scoping, all of these pieces of documentation, bits of paper, The moment the teams take them, start implementing them, we realize that the architecture is probably wrong, okay, or we need to do something differently. And then we end up having to keep that architecture document up to date, and kind of we're doing like version 2 _ new. You've seen all these things happen before. And maybe, has this ever happened to anyone? This happened to me about 7 years ago working at scale. We're going to add a deadline to increase focus. Has anyone ever had that? Yeah, yeah, a couple of hands again. Yeah, right. So these things don't work, okay? And like I said at the beginning, that it's really easy to fall into this trap because you think you're dealing with something simple, but this doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? It's because teams are complex systems, okay? Right, I'm now going to talk a bit about Cynefin, which is about as teachery as this is going to get. So apologies if you're like, I know Cynefin, but if you don't, I'm hoping it's quite a nice intro to the framework. And if you want to know more about it, there's loads you can have a look at online, and I'll point you in, point you in the direction of some training. So in Cynefin, we have 3 types of system, okay? You might be thinking there's 4, but we're doing 3. We're doing a nice gentle introduction. And we have these systems here. So chaotic, complex, and clear. Starting over on the right, that clear system, okay? You can hopefully see it at the back. We've got some really rigid constraints there. Everything's nicely constrained, it's nicely tight. I think a really good example of a clear system is a vending machine. Okay, you can put your coins in, or your car payment, you pick your thing, it drops out the can of Red Bull, and you can kind of see things in it, but the glass isn't so thin that you can like smash through and steal stuff. And it's got weights in it, so you can't move it. So it's quite a clear, quite rigid system. Another clear system, I've got it on the slide there, I've got that engine. So this system, you might think, well, an engine's not very clear. But actually, an engine has a schematic, right? So you can change bits of an engine. You can change a whole engine if you want to. Similar with a jet plane, right? Jet plane's got a schematic. I need to change the wing of a plane, can change the wing of a plane, okay? So you might be thinking, hang on, that sounds complex, but actually we're dealing in quite a clear realm, even though it's complicated, yes, but it's not the most complex thing in the world. In the middle, we've got complex. So you see here, we've got kind of more loose connections. We've got things a bit more fuzzy. I've put a couple of images here, and these are from Cynefin themselves. So I've put the copyright on the slide as well. So we've got this little ecosystem here. You've got a little bunny rabbit, bit of a river, nice tree. Ecosystems are really interesting because they're mega complex, and we only really realize afterwards that we've completely like ruined something. You know, you chop down all the trees, you put some houses down, and then it's like, why are there so many insects kind of here? Why I've got these problems? Oh, because there's no birds anymore. So the birds can't eat the insects. And now there are no bees, so nothing's growing. If there's no bees, everyone dies. There's no food. So you know, in Manchester, they're starting to put the pollinators on top of the bus shelters. Anyone seen this? You've got they should see them a bit more as we get further into April. On top of some of the bus shelters, they've got, you know, all the greenery and the flowers and things to get the bees back out, because we realised only in retrospect that without bees we are really in trouble, right? So so ecosystems are complex, and here's your team. Okay, I know there's probably more than 4 people in your team, but you know, you've got connections between all of you. You're complex. You might have less. I'm in a team of 3 at the moment, and it's a wonderful team. They are both here as well. So, and then we've got chaos. Okay, so chaos, we've got no boundaries around it. Chaos is kind of temporary, and kind of we're not going to really focus that much on it. But you're not really going to come across chaos much in real life, okay? So chaos is, there's an explosion, something's on fire, oh my goodness, but then very quickly a system forms, because you'll see people running, and you're very quickly going to start running as well, right? You're going to all kind of run in the same direction. So it doesn't really come up all that much. So on this slide, you can see we've kind of talking a little bit about kind of some of the stuff I've talked through. Key thing to call out, on the clear system, we've got governing constraints, okay? So it's a really rigid system, okay? And that means it's really good when things are well understood. So when you're in your best practice, good practice, that this is kind of your clear system, okay? You've got a schematic, it's predictable. But when things are complex and in your team, it's dynamic, okay? So for example, the organisation I work at now, some people who I work with, they've been there for a really long time, and they might not be that senior, but I can chat with them, and they also, they know the directors, they know all these people, so there's back channels and things, and if you kind of say something to someone and you hear it back kind of coming at you from someone else more senior, it's like, well, what happened? Oh, it's like they knew them, who knows them, who didn't like your idea, and then you heard it back. Okay, brilliant. Because people are complex. So with Cynefin, so this is Dave Snowden's framework. So we kind of take those elements and we draw them out like this. Okay. So you can see on the right side, we've got clear has been split into clear and complicated. Clear being our vending machine example, right? And complicated being, maybe our jet engine or our architecture plan or something. We've got a schematic. We know what's going on. Over in the top left, we've got complex, and then down here we've got chaotic. In the middle, you've got where you land, which is confused. So lots of safe for work C words you can use. But over on the right, you can see solving puzzles. Okay, and we're in the complex world. It's all about shifting patterns. I'll just touch on it quickly. So this little thing down here, this symbolises the cliff that you can fall off of. So we talked a bit about at the beginning, if you ever said best practice or good practice and it's blown up in your face. And the idea is that's you kind of mistaking something for clear, and actually it's chaotic, right? Or it's complex. So you drift from clear into chaos because you try and impose order, you say just do best practice, good practice, and it blows up in your face. Right, last slide on the framework. Just put this on here because it shows you how to respond in the different environments. So for us, we're focusing on complex, okay, up over here. So in the complex domain, Cynefin recommend that you try things, okay? So you run experiments, you try stuff, and then you see what happens, and then you respond to it, okay? So you try things. They call that exaptive practice, and that comes from evolutionary theory. So evolutionary theory being evolution by natural selection, okay? An animal evolves, it gets things that work, like it might have slightly sharper teeth or be able to run slightly faster. That gives it an advantage and you kind of keep that. But if something doesn't work, it very quickly, natural selection gets rid of it. So the idea is we kind of try some stuff. If it works, we keep it. If it doesn't work, we drop it, okay? So I won't touch on Cynefin anymore. Like I say, if you want to learn more, if you're enjoying this and this is your jam, there's a Cynefin base camp, which is I think it's like 4 half days. It's about £700 or £800, something like that. But it's a brilliant course to go and do, and you'll kind of do way more than what we can do in such a short amount of time. Okay, so let's look at some constraints. What constraints do you see here? Shout out, please.
Capacity.
Protecting things.
Yeah, people are protected. Second.
Capacity.
Capacity, yeah, you can only fit so many people. Yeah.
Overpriced food and drink.
Overpriced food and drink. So this is Oblivion. Has anyone been on Oblivion before? Yeah, nods. I realised I first went on it over 20 years ago, which makes me really old. It's good. It's a great ride. But yeah, you are literally strapped in. You can only have so many people. It only goes forwards and backwards. You can't go left or right, right? So this is very, very, very rigid. It's a very constrained system. This is a slightly different photo. So this is me in Masca Gorge in Tenerife. But what you can see, maybe at the back, this thing that looks a bit like a thread kind of going over it, that's a road. Okay, so that's the only road going through. So have a look at that. And again, do you see any constraints or anything there?
If you take a curve a bit too fast, you're a bit screwed.
Yeah, you could very quickly fly off, right? In trouble. Anyone else see any constraints?
Would be difficult.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. They have buses on there as well. You get big buses and it gets quite scary. Yeah.
Is that the one that goes up to Altade?
I think Teday's slightly more to the west. I think. So I've gone here a couple of times. It's really great if you get into systems thinking. It's great for constraints. So you can't go off the road. You can't deviate from the road, right? You're stuck on the road. But you can go in whatever vehicle you want, right? You can go on a bus with lots of other people. You can cycle it. You can jog it. You can go in a car. I went in a car at the crack of dawn with my 6-month-old daughter and my wife, and we had an amazing time. Time before, we did it in a tour bus. It was horrible, and I panicked the whole time, right? So, but it's you are very constrained by the road, but you can still go backwards and forwards, and your journey is kind of up to you. You kind of define that. What about this one? What do you see there, constraints-wise? Does anyone know the term for this?
Desire line.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone who's like been in UX, desire line, desire path. Yeah, but anyone see any constraints here to call out?
The trees.
You couldn't fly it.
Trees. Couldn't call out, no?
The road on this side that they've not bothered about and gone down the path, the main road path.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very unconstrained, isn't it? You've got kind of, this is probably a bit of a suggestion. If you want to go over there, go this way and then go back. But realistically, people are just going, hey, I want to go. This is the quickest way. So the system's reorganised itself in this situation. Okay, you could probably cycle that. You might get a car if you really tried it. There's nothing stopping you, right? You are free to do what you want. And then this one here. This is Shibuya crossing in Japan. It's not actually that busy in this photo. But you can see we've got the crossings, and we've got kind of people all over the place. So what constraints do you see there?
The traffic lights have stopped.
Traffic lights, brilliant. Thanks, Matthew. How much the other constraints?
Markers on the road.
Yeah.
Don't know he's paying any attention to.
Oh, can't
Yeah, it's a really interesting system. And sorry, you'll see this everywhere if you get into it. Every time I take my daughter to the park, there's a lot of constraints at the park, and you head into it. But you can see people are going everywhere. We've got the lines, right? We've got the zebra crossings, as we would call them in the UK. But people are literally going everywhere. It looks like chaos, right? And at night, when you get more people, it's kind of crazy. It's worth, if you go to Japan, I think you have to do this. You have to go and see it, because it is a great crossing. But there's order, because there are times when people aren't there, and cars are coming, traffic's going through, buses are going through, cycles going through. So there's a level of constraint there, even though right now it looks a bit like chaos. But yeah, it's not the best photo I've ever taken, but hopefully illustrates the example. Okay, so what is a constraint? So that's a link to the Cynefin wiki if you're interested. But I've tried to define a few here kind of based off of the examples we've been looking at. So a rigid constraint. So this is something that is fixed, and then if you break it, it's catastrophic. So I don't think there've been any major issues with Oblivion, but I know there have been challenges with roller coasters at Alton Towers in the past. So there's no deviation possible by design. And when it does deviate from design, the implication is something's gone terribly wrong, okay? So it's very, very, very fixed and rigid, and therefore you can't break it. And if you think about our vending machine as well, lots of fixed constraints there, but you can tip one over if you really tried, but it's not gonna end well. So I've put enabling constraints down as well. So I think this is where there's, we kind of give the conditions for good work, but we don't tell people this is how it has to be. So this is where we'll talk about it, but you might set a goal or say, this is what I want you to achieve, or an OKR, okay, where it's like, this is the objective, this is the key results, and you kind of let people go and crack on with that. But I put Masco Gorge down here because that road, it will shape your journey, but it's up to you on the experience. Okay, if you go first thing in the morning like I did, you have a much quieter time than if you go a bit later. And then we've got connecting. So these are the things, connections between people that are flexible and they restructure. Okay, so our desire paths and people self-organizing within the conditions. And I remember COVID, I was working with a team, 2 teams, it went down to 1, and then we regrew after COVID. We had to reorganize massively, right? We were not set up for remote ways of working, and that kind of self-organizing is a huge thing for lots of people. So there's more constraints, and you can do a whole talk on constraints. I'll plug a conference at the end actually with a discount code where there is going to be all about constraints coming up a bit later this year. So if you're interested, we can do more there, more to talk about. So the constraints in your team aren't rigid. They're ways to influence the system, okay? So coming back to our Scrum team, let's have a look at what enabling constraints could be. So I think it's good to give examples because some people kind of struggle to marry the theory with the practice, right? So here are some enabling constraints. You might already be doing some of these in your teams, right, and not really realizing that you're doing them. So WIP limits, which is you can work on whatever you want, but no more than this number. So you might have a WIP limit, so that's a work in progress limit, which limits the amount of work in progress, okay? So it might be 3 things, it might be 2, all depends on your team, all depends on your context. Anyone got a definition of ready in your area? Yeah, a couple of nods. Definition of ready, not on the Scrum guide, so it's not going to come up in any of your scrum.org exams, don't worry about that. Don't mention it next month when Dave's here. But it's a really interesting thing. So it's basically saying stories or work can enter our team, but only when it meets this set of criteria, okay? That's really useful in some situations. So if you are in a team and you're always having challenges with a third party, always letting you down, you might go, well, we're not going to start work until that third party's done what they need to do, okay? And then we will start work because our experience tells us we start work and we just wait and wait and wait and wait. So you might you might be like, okay, we're going to have a definition ready. The downside is when you're really rigid and fixed on the work has to meet these conditions before we start working on it, that's a massive flow inhibitor. You're basically building a waterfall stage gate and all the work just queues up before your team, okay? So it can be really dangerous. So just be careful with the definition of ready. They're great and they're powerful, but you've got to think about the context. Definition of done, if you're working Scrum, you probably have one of these, right? This is, we move work to done in this situation when these set of standards are met. When you've got a performance challenge, okay, so if you're like always deploying stuff and you're being told it doesn't perform, we've got a big challenge here, you know, changing your definition of done to include we're going to performance test all our work, right? Yeah, I've got a few cases there. That can help with making sure you don't have the performance challenges, but at the same time, it might lead to introduce more challenges, more work. Your cycle time might go up, right? You might have some challenges there. Okay, so team working agreements. Anyone got team working agreements? Anyone got these? Team API, team charter, team, yeah, some of you have them. So this is kind of, your team probably has this already. You might just not have documented it, but this is kind of documenting it and saying, this is how our team, this is how we interact, okay? In the mornings, I'm at my best in the mornings, right? So I sort of say to my team, like, leave me alone, really, in the mornings until we get to like 9 o'clock and then you can chat to me. Because I've got the headset on, I've got dance music going, and I'm just blasting through work. Whereas your team might be different. You might, hey, let's do our stand-up, let's collaborate, and in the afternoons, that's kind of our time. You can change your sprint time box, and you can also kind of think about your story sizes. So this is when you pull work into your team, do you break it down, all of those things. So all these things are enabling constraints. Anyone doing any of this stuff already? Yeah, some nods? Yeah, good. So it's just, these are all ways of constraining your system in order to optimize flow, okay? So that's what we're thinking about here. So we want to create the conditions for people to be creative and to have the freedom. Every team is different and every team is unique. And
Yeah, I think you can argue that constraints are a stimulator for creativity, maybe. Could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll find a way around it.
Well, it's like if you've been to a workshop, it's like we're going to do some blue sky thinking. I find that really hard sometimes, where it's like literally we can do anything, and I'm like, no, I need you to just kind of tell me a little bit. What problem am I trying to solve? Like, what's the problem? Help me, because I struggle. My dad's very creative, and that's where we're very different. Okay, so let's talk about how we shift constraints. So if you remember back to the Cynefin framework, we had probe, so run an experiment, sense and respond. Okay, so that's what we want to do when we're with our teams and we're trying to shift constraints. So if you have a quick look at that image. So this is a Formula One car. It's the Brabham, oh, you can see my notes. It's the Brabham BT46B. It's the fan car, okay? They called it the fan car because if you can't see it at the back, there's a massive fan there, right? So this was in the 70s, and Brabham introduced the car, they put a fan on it, and they said, we're going to run this experiment. We're going to try sticking a fan on the car. Does the car go any faster? The answer was yes, the car goes a lot faster, and they won the Swedish Grand Prix, okay? Huzzah, let's keep the fan on the car then. That's what you probably think. What they realised, though, was although they'd won the Grand Prix, that was probably one of their metrics, they also wanted to join the Constructors Association, so all the other people who kind of had a car in Formula One at the time. And they weren't part of the Constructors Association, all the other teams were. Everyone in the Constructors Association hated them, okay? So they walked around the paddock and they just got, you know, grumpy faces, unhappy people. Why have you put a flipping fan on your car? So what they did, they took the fan off the car, okay? So they didn't go on to win loads more races, but they did get into the Constructors Association, okay? So they tried something. They ran an experiment. They got the metrics. They won the race, but everyone hated them. And they adjusted. It only was on there for one race, and then they adjusted their approach, okay?
Tyrrell did the same thing with the forefront wheel.
Yes, they did, which is another good example, but don't think it's exciting fun, yeah. I'm a big nerd for Formula One. So here's just an example in your team, okay? So introduce a whip limit, okay? You can only work on X number of things at one time. Does your cycle time change, better or worse? And what did you just learn? And the reason I kind of want to really highlight these things, so if you ever get an Agile consultant coach in your team, okay? If they go, we're going to get someone in, they might look at your team and go, your cycle times are really high. Have you thought of putting a whip limit in? And you go, oh, thank you. If only we paid you how much a day to come and just tell us that. There is some reason to it, but what you find is, I encourage teams to try this, because what you find is sometimes your cycle time gets worse and things take longer and things get stuck. And what we just learned is that maybe our engineering practices don't enable people to work on the same thing. We've not got good mobbing practices. We're not good at pairing. We're not good at collaborating on our work together. And actually, that's a bigger problem in our system and something we can think to look at, okay? So better or worse, and what did you learn? The key thing is, what did you learn? You know, and kind of having that, you know, don't treat it as a failure, treat it as an experiment. It's safe to fail. What did we just learn? And what's the next experiment? What's the next thing? And it ties into Scrum, so I've put a bit of the Scrum guide on there because I've got a PSM3 and I feel like I have to. Dave's here next month, tell him I did that. But it's based on empiricism, right? Empiricism means you do something, you see what happens, and you make a decision based off what you see, okay? So, but what about at scale? Okay, so I work at scale, working with lots of teams at the moment, lots of people. It's hard. And here are some of the challenges I find. So when working at scale and you kind of transform an organization, you scale up, you end up in a position where you get legacy behaviors, okay? So these are things that were there previously and they're still there in the organization, and they're hard to adjust and adapt. So, and what you find is the system, and I mean the system at scale here, it optimizes for the wrong thing sometimes, okay? So whatever that legacy metric was, whatever that thing was that we used to really care about, whether it's capacity utilization or the number of features we did or the number of PBIs your team did, the whole organization ends up trying to optimize for these legacy metrics. So they don't think about end-to-end flow. And that can be a real challenge. Okay? It can be really hard. So, you know, enterprise coach working with senior management, working with some of the teams, it's really hard to implement that change when you've got 40 plus teams, right? You just cannot physically get to them all. And for those of you who've not worked with coaches before, we don't kind of stay in the team. We kind of come, we help, we give you some advice, some guidance, and we're on to the next team, right? So we even with 40 teams, by the time we've got all the way around, you know, we've got to start all over again. So coaching isn't fast enough, but what has worked, and this is going to sound like I'm not going to underplay it, it's e-learning's words, okay? So it doesn't sound that sexy, does it? And say e-learning is the great thing that we did. but e-learning really is the great thing that we did. Okay, there's a few reasons for this. So previously you'd have to train people. You've got a smaller organisation. You just say, okay, well, everyone get in your car, drive up to Leeds, or we'll all go to London, and we'll have a day, and we'll do some training, and we'll work together, and we'll set some vision, and we'll talk about some stuff, and we'll share some language, and you'll know what I'm on about when I start talking about cycle time and all this stuff. But what e-learning does is across hundreds of people, you can just slowly raise the bar just a little bit and say, this is what we do. This is what success looks like. And even with managers, we say, this is what we want. Okay. So I put there, it commoditizes common sense, because it really does, because you get everyone talking the same way, you get everyone using the same language. And when you've got teams in the UK, you've got teams in India, you've got teams in the US and Singapore, it doesn't matter. You don't have to kind of get everyone to your head office in Leeds. Okay, you can just roll this out. New person starts, they're on the same journey. Okay. Cool. So just remember in closing, okay, your team is a complex system, right? That's what I want you to walk away with. Optimization is really, really, really hard, okay? And this is because you're dealing with complexity, okay? So when you're getting in the net because the numbers don't look right, just remember you're dealing with complexity, and that makes it tough. And leadership in this type of situation is about environment design. So I'm big into wine. I have a blog where I talk about wine school and Agile. It's a bit weird, but it's fun. So this is Bordeaux, and they have those are some vines set up quite nicely. Okay, Bordeaux's great. They grow some amazing wine, but you can see they've got good irrigation. We've got all this stuff. If I take those vines and I put them in a desert or a very dry environment, I'm not going to grow great grapes, am I? I'm not going to get some great wine at the end of it. So what we need to do is create the environment for our teams and our people to thrive, okay? So it's all about, a bit of experimentation. Maybe the weather's not great. Maybe things are tough. Maybe we need to try shifting things with small experiments to improve the environment for our people to thrive, because it's not an easy environment, okay? So, after the Easter weekend, that's what I want you to do. Or the Easter break if you're going away. So think of one thing you can measure, one small experiment you can run, and then see what the system tells you, okay? Start small, be safe to fail. I'd encourage you to do a lot of this, because if you're not failing, you're kind of not pushing things hard enough, really. You need some of these to fail, okay? So that's it for me. I'm on LinkedIn if you want to connect. Just one thing to quickly plug as well. There's a conference in Cambridge, and they're doing constraint as catalyst. It's called Constraint as a Catalyst. So if you like constraints and you want to go to have a look at Agile Cambridge, I managed to bag us a discount code as well for 10% off. So just if you're interested in that. But that is me.